Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast from the Football Grad Network. I'm your host, Bryce Dunn. And joining me, as always, is Chris Williams. Chris, how's your week been?
Well, it's a bit of a fast one, Bryce. It's been very good, thanks. Lovely weather, lots and lots of transfer stuff going on. And of course, on the wider Football Grad Network, we've got Confederations stuff happening. And when you get over to Manu, he's already in Russia, which is quite cool.
Yeah, very cool indeed, eh? As you said, we've got plenty to talk about transfer season after all, so we're going to have plenty of transfers to talk about. But we'll probably start off with all of our topics tonight, based on where Manu is actually at this very moment. Manu, where are you?
I'm in St. Petersburg. Opening game tomorrow, Russia, New Zealand. It's been a very good day today. I got in today, got to go through the nice little FIFA passport control, which meant a whole waiting time of 30 seconds. Got ushered through, and then fast lane through all the picket lines and the lines at the airport, the security check-ins, and then got into my place, got to the stadium, picked up all my fancy FIFA Confederations Cup media accreditation. So yeah, things are very good. Even really interesting sounding techno song on the taxi ride in. You know my love for techno, right? It's good times to listen to some good techno, as long as it's not Scooter or something like that. It's always good. No, I don't want Scooter. No, it just fulfills too many German stereotypes when you have Scooter, I find. So I'm glad that it was a good old Russian techno song instead.
Well, I think with my musical taste, I think we just need to get off music altogether. Let's move on and let's stick to the football. I believe so. So, Manu, are we likely to see an upset from New Zealand to begin with?
I don't think so. I think
no, probably not.
If there is an upset, then Russia are in big trouble. And this is something that we really spoke in depth about on the Football Grad podcast. So I don't want to get into too much detail here, but the group stage away it's set up, Russia facing New Zealand, Portugal, and Chile. And not beating New Zealand in the first game would mean that they're in big trouble.
Yeah, I think so. But let's obviously stick to a more German side of things. Germany have Australia in their first game, don't they, on Monday night? What type of squads has Joachim Low taken with him? Just kind of run it by us. For anyone who's listening that has managed to avoid any talk about the Confederations Cup, is it a bit of an experimental side? Is it a young side? I mean, who exactly surprised you that was included?
Well, I think it wasn't really that big of a surprise. I think it's interesting the way Joachim Löw managed to put together a side that excluded 8 stars from the normal A team. And it also managed to still even out the young talent that we have between the Confederations Cup squad, but also the U21 squad. And I think that is something important to note, because Germany always has taken the U21 tournament quite serious. Ever since the 2009 tournament was won by Manuel Neuer, Özil, and all these kids, right? They formed the backline of the team that won the 2014 World Cup. And because of that, they're taking that tournament serious. So you see someone like Serge Gnabry, for example, at the U21 rather here in Russia. And he could easily be at this A side, right? But they wanted to even out the talent. So Max Arnold, for example, is another one who could have featured at this Russia side that is playing with the U21 instead. And it really goes up and down that list. So when they announce the squads, they actually announce the squads together. And I think that's a really interesting feature of this side, that they not only manage to exclude the players that usually heavily feature for Germany, but they also still manage to send quite a lot of strong players to the U21 side. So we actually have two prospect teams, I guess is the best way to say it, at two tournaments at the same time. That said, I mean, Chris, we talked about this, right? This is still a very strong side that Germany has sent to Russia. And when you look at some of these players, there's some real quality there.
Oh, there is, and it's a remarkably young squad. And as you mentioned, the guys even younger that could have made it, that have gone into the under-21 side, take that aside. You know, in goal, for instance, you've got Ter Stegen. Oh, that's Barcelona's keeper, straight in. Then some of the defenders we've got. Ginter's had a not too bad a season at Dortmund. Hector's obviously first choice. Hendricks, Kimmich, Plattenhardt, I think is a great addition because he's had a fantastic season at Hertha Berlin. And obviously Niklas Süle now at Bayern Munich. And then the midfield, wow, I would take a few of those for a full-strength senior squad. Draxler, Stindl, who I've just waxed lyrical on the whole season. I think he's been a fantastic star for Gladbach. Emre Can, close to my heart as a Liverpool fan. Sane was in, wasn't he? But then he's withdrawn. That's a bit of a disappointment for him and for us to be able to watch him. Julian Brandt, where's he going to be? Let's see what a tournament he has. Obviously, you've got Rudy and then Deme from Leipzig. And I am so excited by this forward line. Werner and Wagner, they are two hot German strikers at the moment. And I can see them both getting a bag full of goals in this group.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think Sandro Wagner was joking. We did a little profile on him on Footballgrad. And he was joking after the Denmark game that of course ended in a 1-1 draw, that they came straight off the beach to play together for the first time ever. And I thought they did pretty well considering that they only had one training session and went straight into this game against Denmark and ended in a 1-1 draw. Beautiful goal scored by Joshua Kimmich to make it 1-1. And then, of course, against San Marino, no disrespect to San Marino, but you have to beat them high. But I thought that they actually looked very good. One player that you didn't mention, I like to kind of point out, is Armin Younes, who had a spectacular season with Ajax Amsterdam. And he is, for me, a player that I'm very excited about because I think he's going to probably make the step back to Germany at some point soon. And he is someone that I've been very, very excited about because he just has a lot of elements these days. He's a small player, low center of gravity, has a bucket load of tricks, and he went through that Ajax Amsterdam school, which is of course a very highly tactical and technical school, and that was really something that helped him quite a bit. And I think he will feature in this tournament quite heavily.
I think it's interesting where his old boss has gone. I think if he'd gone anywhere else apart from Dortmund, who are loaded with top quality, exciting young talent, I feel he may have already signed there. I think the fact that Bosch has gone to Dortmund has probably done Younes a bit of a, not disservice, but it's sort of blocked his way to make his move with his old boss, because I think they're just too strength and depth in that midfield area.
Yeah, where would they put Younes, right? But I think that the Younes after this tournament will have plenty of options to decide where he wanted to go. And he said that he wanted to win a championship with Ajax, so the way Ajax played last season, Ajax are going to be in the Champions League, I believe, as well. He might very well be served playing another season in the Netherlands before he makes the jump back to Germany. It's a very good school. The club has a very good school and developing players. And this Confederations Cup is going to be very good for him, I think, too, just to play with the big German guys. To Joachim Löw, in an interview, said he's excited about actually coaching, because when he has the big players, they already know what to do. They already finished products and they know how to run the positional plays. Everything is already kind of set in their mind. And he said with this squad, it's very exciting for him because he has this raw team and all these raw talents, and he feels like he can actually coach them in a way. He doesn't have to just put them through the motions. And I think for a coach, he, for a very long time, was very reluctant about this tournament, but I feel the sense is that he's really come to terms with this and is actually really enjoying it. And I guess as a coach, this is a fun way to try and experiment and test under competition, but at the same time without having the pressure to actually have to win a tournament.
And I mean, Chris, would you expect Germany to kind of be favourites for this? Do you think they'll be taking it seriously enough and they'll want to win it? Or do you think there's going to be other sides maybe taking it more seriously, maybe more capped sides, and they're going to push for this title?
Well, I wrote the introducing Portugal piece for Football Grad, which is on the Football Grad site as part of the Confederations work that we're doing as a team, and I've put them down as overall favourites, and I do that because they've taken a very, very strong squad full of experience as well as youth, and bearing in mind that they're European champions as well. I think Germany, although they've got a very, very good side, I wouldn't put them as favourites as such. I think it's a very experimental, very young side. What I would think we're going to see here is a youthful team full of intent and full of attack, and almost the RB Leipzig of the Confederations Cup, if you like. It's full of young, raw talent with a very good head coach, and who knows what they can do. Maybe they can go on and win it. After all, it's a competitive tournament with a trophy on offer, and the Germans are excellent when it comes to tournament football, so we'll see how they go. But starting as favourites, no, I will, from my own perspective, I would say that Portugal slightly edge out Germany as favourites.
You don't want to win it anyways. There's a curse. If you win the Confederations Cup, you don't end up winning the World Cup the year after. So best to let someone else deal with that.
Okay, well, I mean, you'll be happy maybe to lose that final then, or if you get that far, I suppose. But yeah, it'll be an exciting time just to see who exactly has a bit of a a strong tournament, and really flourishes on the big screen. Especially a lot of these players, as we said, may not be normally in the side, so it's going to be very exciting. We see a lot of these players on a regular basis, but this could be a step up in the experience that they may need to drive them forward, I suppose. Manu, is there any particular game, especially if it includes Germany, that you're looking forward to just before we move on?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to seeing Chile on Sunday. That's going to be, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game as well. Or the game, I guess, when the pond is out, it will be already past, but the opening game between Russia and Russia and New Zealand. But the game that I'm looking forward to in particular, which is I'm going to cover, is the Cameroon-Chile game, because this is the first time in a long time that I see the Cameroon squad and I literally know nothing about them. I did the preview and had to do a lot of research for it. And Chile has been a side that I have now followed a bit more closely over the last two Copa America titles. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing that game. And then, of course, once we get to the knockout stage, that's always fascinating, isn't it? And I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I just seen 22nd of June, the Thursday, in the Kazan Arena. You've got Germany versus Chile. That should be a great game, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should be a cracker. And I think anyone who wants to pick out one particular game, that would be one. We are accredited for it, but we are sort of waiting for whether we can actually make it, because distances are quite far. And there's only two of us in Russia at the moment. And while we have the media ticket for it, we're not sure whether we can, do it logistically. So fingers crossed, we're actually at that game as well.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, no doubts, guys, head over to Football Grad Live on Twitter or the website, and you'll be able to see Manu and the other guys firing out articles, covering it extensively. And yeah, it could be a very interesting and maybe quite exciting tournament, actually. So yeah, definitely check it out. But yes, we're going to go back to the Bundesliga sides now. And we're going to talk about a bit of transfer news. I feel we're going to be talking quite a lot about transfer news, actually, not just in this pod, but in the next few weeks. And Bayern Munich have been busy. Manu, you've covered this even with an article, haven't you? That they've signed someone from Olympique Lyon. What can you tell us about this signing? I mean, it seemed to almost come a little bit out of the blue, I feel. Would you agree?
Yeah, but I mean, there was some rumblings about it, but I guess everyone focused on Alexis Sanchez. We did as well, and the potential move there. And I can say that Alexis Sanchez was very much on the radar. I don't want to say that deal is dead, but Bayern seem to, Susie's probably going to be applauding here, right? Come to their financial senses and figured that they need to go young instead of buying finished products. And Corentin Tolisso, from the research I've done, from the people I've spoken to, the article that I wrote is largely focused on a conversation I have with a French SoFoot journalist called Adrien Kandau, who was kind enough to speak to me about this. Kind of owed me a favor because I helped him with an article on Tarek Grosny. So I called him a favor on that one, and he spoke to me extensively because he covers Ligue 1 quite heavily, and it sounds like they really landed quite a fascinating player. Was a very, very good, aside from the article I wrote, of course, but there was also a really good article today in the Süddeutsche. So if you're a German listener, I can highly suggest it to read that, because it's the Süddeutsche, the way they do it. They do long reads and they are able to tell the story, and they interweave between the talent and the abilities, but also the background. And Tolisso is a midfielder, a central midfielder who can essentially play any role in the back line, but also in midfield. And he's a very dangerous player in terms of getting goals as well. And he's quite a character. He's going to bring something to the dressing room that Bayern will need as, more and more star players are breaking away. They need to have something that just gives them character depth. And I think he can do this. Now, I'm very excited to see him. He's still young, 22. They paid 41.5 million euros, which makes him the most expensive signing in the Bundesliga. And I mean, Chris, that seems like peanuts in comparison to what the other leagues are spending. But in Germany, that is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is, and he's had a good season, hasn't he? I'm not an avid watcher of Ligue 1, so I've only seen his impact that he's had throughout the competitions that I've seen. It's obviously the Europa League where they went quite far in the end. But it's whether he can make that step up, isn't it? I noticed that in the article, Adrien says he doesn't know if he's mature enough to go straight away into the Bayern starting lineup, or whether he's going to have to just observe the league from either from the bench or from substitution introductions early on to bring himself up to speed. And I think we've seen with Renato Sanchez, and you mentioned it in your article, Manu, that sometimes players from abroad find it a little difficult to come in and make that step up, especially if they're playing somewhere like Bayern Munich. I think if they're going to go into one of the other mid-table Bundesliga teams, they may get a little bit more time to make that step up. But if you're going straight into either Bayern Munich or Dortmund or now Leipzig or Hoffenheim, you're being asked to make that step up immediately. So whether he can do that or not is a matter, and we'll all watch on avidly next season to hopefully see if he can make that transition. But it certainly makes a lot more financial sense if we're going to look at just the pure money side of the deal. 40 million euros plus bonuses. It is quite expensive for a German transfer, but it's nowhere near in the region of what Alexis Sanchez would have cost, which would have been 150, 70, 80, 90 million euros, which I think is, although he's a good player, I think for his age, probably a little ridiculous for Bayern, who have the money. They do have that money there, and we've talked a lot on previous pods that Bayern are massively cash rich. They just have to go to the bank and draw the money out. They don't need to go to any sugar daddy or oligarch or Arabian prince. They just got the money there in the bank ready to go. So I think financially it makes a lot of sense, and also I think it's where Bayern need to go. You look around their nearest rival, Dortmund, Leipzig, Hoffenheim, all strengthening with youth players, or they've got a core of youth team. Bayern's a little bit opposite. I would have seen that the signing of Alexis Sanchez, who's a little older, would have put it on the sign of another ageing team, which I think they need to get away on, and something that Susie was a little critical of when she was on, saying that Ancelotti needs to be able to develop more youth talent. Well, this is certainly the road that she'll be glad, I think, they're going down on by signing a talented player who's also got youth on his side.
The question for me, though, is can Ancelotti actually do it? And I think this is something that we've kind of danced around this issue for quite some time now. But can Ancelotti actually develop players like that? He had never really had to do it. At Chelsea, they just bought everyone they needed, right? 1, 2, 3, you weren't up to 3, you were bought. Same with Real Madrid. Now at Bayern, I think he may have stepped in thinking, well, I'm just going to do what I did at AC Milan and Real and then in Chelsea, and I'll just get them to buy finished players. And it's not like that in Germany. Even at Bayern, it's not really like that, isn't it? So I think that Alexis Sanchez is very much an Ancelotti signing, and something that he's pushing. But instead, they signed Serge Gnabry, 21. Niklas Süle, I believe he's 20, right? Sebastian Rudy, okay, he's a bit older, but, still a player that will need to be developed in one way or another. And then they signed Tolisso. That's not players that Ancelotti usually is used to signing, but Bayern always traditionally has signed players like that and then formed them into world stars. The question really I'm asking is, can Ancelotti do this? And I have my doubts. I really do.
It's going to be a different step turn for him, isn't it? Because, as you quite rightly said, he's gone into teams maybe that aren't the finished article, but they've certainly got world-class players there, and he almost just has to manoeuvre them into the right area and coach them the way he wants to play the football. He knows they're capable of doing it. How's he going to rise to that challenge with players he's got to bring on and develop to the level that he wants to coach at? This is why it's going to be exceptionally interesting next season for Bayern, especially you've got the likes of Nagelsmann, who are renowned now for doing this at such a young age himself. He's able to bring on youth with him. Maybe he's on the same level. He can talk the same. It's what's Ancelotti going to be able to do to bring these guys up to the next level?
Well, surely the question isn't just whether he can do it. Sure it is. But the question then that would reach out to is, how long is Ancelotti planning to stay there? I mean, if he plans to do 1 more year, maybe 2 more years, he mightn't be that bothered. He might be like, oh, well, I'm out of here in a year or 2. I don't care as long as I win, then I'm off. Where if there was another manager, I feel that came in, the likes of maybe Tuchel, the next club he goes to, he'll be maybe thinking this is a long-term project, and that 18-year-old I've got on the bench, I'm looking to make something special out of, if you know what I mean. Would you agree with that? And how long do you see him staying at this project, as people would call it?
Well, Bryce, you just opened the whole can of worms, because, I wonder, could that be the job that Tuchel is waiting for?
Take a year out and then get it then, maybe. Not saying it is, but, if he is, he's turned away. I mean, we spoke, Manu, the other day, didn't we, that Southampton seemed to be chasing him, and we thought, well, it's maybe they're not in the Champions League, but the Premier League does offer an awful lot of money, and with that, sometimes it can turn heads, right? And Southampton maybe slightly have an attitude about them that seems to suit Tuchel in the way that they bring players through youth, and they do the best of what they can. And really, they're a bit of a selling club, unfortunately, for Southampton. But Ancelotti and Bayern, it kind of fits quite well, I always think. And Real Madrid and Ancelotti fits quite well. You can come in, you can do 2 or 3 years, work with the superstars, and off you go, if you know what I mean.
But Tuchel's big issue was that he didn't want to pass on players. He didn't want to develop players. He thought, he came to Dortmund thinking he's going to be playing for Champions League titles, big titles right away, right? And then that didn't happen. So, I don't know. I mean, this is slightly veering off the topic that we kind of were thinking about early on, but a story that's just popped up on my phone here is suggesting that Antonio Conte could be stepping down over the fight that he's having with Diego Costa, and that Thomas Tuchel is rumored to be his replacement. Now, that just literally popped up on my phone. But that is the kind of club I think he would be going to. I'm not saying this rumor is true, but that I think is where he's going to. And this is no disrespect to Southampton. It's a lower version of Borussia Dortmund, a club that develops players and that does it really well. Southampton is a model club for me in the Premier League, but I don't think they're the club that could attract him. And I think that if someone like Chelsea or possibly Bayern, and I think that is actually something that's quite possible that he could go to Bayern, he would go there because I think he's very much geared towards winning titles.
Yeah, very much so. He's bound to have that drive in him to win titles, and he probably was a little bit sick of maybe being at a club that were willing to sell on players. But I suppose to get back to the point I was trying to make is I will go to Chris for this opinion as well. We were saying about whether Ancelotti can do it. Can he make promising young players into superstars? But then it leads to the question: how long is he going to stay, and whether he's that bothered about a long-term project? What's your opinion?
I've thought it for a while. I think this will be Ancelotti's last season at Bayern, and whether he stays the whole season is still up for question for me. I think if he gets off to a difficult start, or maybe there's more pertinent challenges in the league than we thought, and it doesn't start to go his way, and he doesn't have the likes of Lahm and Alonso to call on, and the ever-aging Ribéry and Robben, I think he could be in uncomfortable territory as we look to come to the end of the first part of the season. If he survives that, I think this will definitely be his last season. 2017-2018 will definitely be his last season, and Bayern Munich will look to a manager with a different outlook to develop a younger squad, because they're going to have to replace Robben and they're going to have to replace Ribéry, and at some point they're going to need to look at bringing someone in who can start to push Lewandowski for his place, and that's going to take a different type of manager than what Ancelotti is. I think, as we've said, the three of us now, Ancelotti is a guy who, if you want him to win the league, he will come into your established squad and he will win you the league. I think that's been done now at Bayern. I think he's done that. I think now it's the next step above, and I don't know, not that he's not equal to it, because he's a fantastic manager. I just don't think that's his style of management. He is a taker of champions and a maker of champions. He doesn't take youth and bring them up. So I will say this will be his last season.
Interesting. We'll just have to see if then there is a manager that comes along, maybe a bit younger, wants a long-term project, and then we'll try and take these young players on, I suppose. But another player that was linked with Bayern Munich is Kramaric of Hoffenheim. Manu, what's the likelihood of this happening, and so why Kramaric of all people? Is this just to strengthen the squads, or do they see a real potential in him as well? Maybe. So
this, maybe to put this story into perspective, did some digging here. Originates in Croatia, Sport Novosti, and not saying that they're wrong, but the way they worded it is that Bayern wants to buy him this season and loan him back to Hoffenheim. Now that part doesn't make any sense, because Bayern do need a backup desperately for Robert Lewandowski. This is something that we've discussed many times in this part, that when Lewandowski goes out with an injury, it becomes dire, doesn't it? And they need someone to come in and can score goals and sort of do the backup. Now, Kramaric maybe fall into that kind of category. I'm still convinced that something big is going to happen at Bayern this summer. And the reason I'm saying that is because Douglas Costa is on his way out. And he's on his way out for a significant amount of money. The kind of money that we expected to see if they maybe sell someone like Jerome Boateng. But Juventus Turin have come to personal terms with Douglas Costa. We know Douglas Costa didn't really quite fulfill the promises that he early on delivered. And Bayern are now getting money for him in the region of 50 million euros, which is 20 million euros more than what they paid originally to get him from Shakhtar Donetsk. So I think that may open the door for something big to happen. No disrespect to Andrej Kramaric. I can't see that one going through at this point, especially because they need someone, they need a splash. I think they do. I'm not saying it needs to be Alexis Sanchez. That is still someone that they connected with all the time, but I'm not sure that they need to spend 180 million on a 20-year-old. But getting 50 million for Douglas Costa would open the door to bring in someone else, and another attacking player, a younger attacking player, someone like, and I'm not saying it is going to be Romelu Lukaku, but someone like Romelu Lukaku. And that's really the kind of category that Bayern need to think. And it needs to be a young player, don't you think so, Chris? Just to fit into the players that they're bringing in right now.
Yeah, I don't think Kramaric is the answer, and that's not to say that's not a slight on him. Obviously, played 34 games in the Bundesliga last season for Hoffenheim, scoring 15 times and chipping in with 8 assists. So he has got the quality that you need in the league. I just don't think he's at the level, like you quite rightly said, that Bayern were looking at the moment. And I wrote an article for Football Stat about a week, 10 days ago, when it started to surface that Bayern was slightly interested in Lukaku, and I will still stand by that he's a very good fit for them. So in the article I took a look at what he would offer, how at the moment Bayern and Everton play a similar system, but they may have to change it to look to a 3-5-2, and how would that affect with Ancelotti, and is that a look to the future if he was to come in and they were to play that? So there's a lot of different variables in that, but I think Romelu Lukaku would be an excellent fit at Bayern Munich. And Manny, you're quite right, that is the type of name that they need to be associated with if they're looking to bring in not an understudy to Lewandowski, but someone who can step into the breach. My only questionable doubt, that is, if they aren't going to change the formation to accommodate 2 strikers, is whether Lukaku would be happy and willing to sit on the bench at Bayern Munich when he would be starting choice striker at many a team across Europe.
Yeah, they would have to change formations for that, and for that to happen, they would have to bring in a different coach. So it's a happy merry-go-round, isn't it?
Yeah, that's. I suppose Lukaku could end up possibly with Tuchel at Chelsea. We'll have to see if either of those deals happen as well. I mean, speaking of Kramaric, I mean, I think we all agree that he's had a great season for Hoffenheim, and he's a valuable player for them. But I suppose when we looked at Lewandowski, didn't make it was the Real Madrid first leg, wasn't it? And it just looked like Bayern didn't have an outlet up front, and you just feel that as much as Kramaric is going to be great in the Bundesliga for the likes of Hoffenheim, when you go to that next level and you need a man to take on, Sergio Ramos and lead the attack against Real Madrid, it's maybe a step too far for him, isn't it? You can see him maybe not being able to reach those heights. But what about, we talk about youth, we talk about players coming in. I'm going to throw it out there. Sell Douglas Costa. They've got cash, as Chris said. What about Mbappé? He's being pushed around, linked with every bloody club that has money. Surely there's a guy that, if he got to a big club like Bayern Munich, sit on the bench a little bit, come on, be an impact sub towards the start. Surely that's a better fit, isn't it? Even if you're really going to have to fork out for it. I mean, what would you think of that kind of signing?
Yeah. I think that would repair the fact that they ended up signing Götze instead of Neymar back in 2013, when they had the chance to land a big up-and-coming international star. They instead went and robbed Borussia Dortmund of their up-and-coming star, despite the fact that the player didn't fit the system. Now, Mbappe is a typical second striker, isn't he? In a lot of ways, he has shown that playing together with Falcao, that he can play with a striker like Lewandowski. So that would make a lot of sense. I think for a player like Mbappe, Bayern would be willing to spend the 180 million that would cost to bring him in. Now there's a high competition here, right? Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid. That seems to be his dream club. I'm actually surprised this is the first time this link has been made by anyone, Bryce. You're a little bit of a genius here. Because it is actually
rumors left, right, and center here.
Well, it's not a rumor. It's I haven't heard any of it. It's surprising. It's an idea, and it's something that it's surprising that no one else has come up with that yet, because it would make sense.
Well, Lothar Matthäus said it back in May, didn't he? He said that Bayern will sign one or more of Monaco's star players for next season. And it was touted that Mbappé was likely to be the top of the list of their targets. So, whilst it's not being muted by the club themselves, there's definitely been people associated with the club around there. And by all accounts, Bayern are watching him, and not just him. They've watched many a player from that Monaco side. So why not? I just fear that not that Bayern won't pay the price. I just think, like with the Sanchez deal, there comes that upper limit where they go, do you know what? That is just actually too much money for us. Now, the only thing which may counter that is his age versus obviously Sanchez's age, because all of a sudden that becomes 180 million over 8, 9, 10 seasons rather than 4 or 5. So if you take it like that, you're looking at maybe 18, 19 million a season if it is the complete top end of his valuation that Monaco have put on him. So it depends. And also then, are they going to be in a bidding war, and are they ready for a bidding war with some of the other big cash-rich clubs around Europe? I think that would appease a lot of people. I think it would show that Bayern is going in the right direction, but once again, it's another young player, and we're back to that. Can Ancelotti develop that young player?
He's 18. The new assistant coach for Bayern is Williams and Manuel, of course, the club's legend, French winger who played for Bayern for a very long time. And shortly after that, they signed Corentin Tolisso, who came out of nowhere too. It's a deal that would make sense. I've been looking around a little bit. There has been rumors linking Mbappé to Bayern as late as June 6th. So that's only 10 days ago. And seems to be mostly scared Arsenal fans thinking that they actually have a chance landing this guy. I think a player like Kylian Mbappé will go to a team like Bayern, Real Madrid, or perhaps Barcelona, although he seems to be very keen on Real, doesn't he? But then there's the very strong French connection at Bayern. We have Franck Ribéry there, who was signed under similar circumstances from Olympique Marseille. So why not? And I think that would make sense, and that'd be the kind of splash. I think that a splash in the transfer market, that would be a sensible splash, and it would probably cost them about the same than Sanchez at the end of the day. So it would make sense. I think, maybe quickly to wrap this up, when Bayern last won the Champions League, they had Mario Mandzukic and Mario Gomez as the two strikers. And Mario Mandzukic was available for the first leg in Barcelona that they won 4-0, I believe. And then he wasn't available for the second leg, and Mario Gomez played. And I think Mandzukic scored 2 goals in the first leg and Gomez scored 3 in the second leg. That was a much better side than the side today for that kind of the ability to throw in a second striker who was just as good as the first one, or vice versa. And they don't have that right now, and they need it.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see what happens. But could be an interesting summer if Douglas Costa does go and Bayern Munich decide to splash the cash once again. Though, speaking of players being linked to Real Madrid, we're going to talk about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang now. I mean, not like Real Madrid of recent times, but obviously in the past. I mean, he's been linked to 2 sides recently, hasn't he, Chris, in PSG and one of these big investing splash the cash Chinese sides. But it seems like the deals have fallen through here, and he may be staying after all, or do you think that still will be the case and someone will pick him up?
Well, it's looking like the PSG link was a bit of a tenuous one. and maybe wasn't as solid as we were led to believe in parts of the German press. I can't see him going to China. He's just won the Cannon. He's a top-notch striker. His goal against Werder Bremen on the last match day, typified that. The ball fell over his shoulder and he hit it first time in his top corner. That's the type of striker he is. He's a guaranteed goal getter, and we remember he scored 31 league goals this season, and he wasn't sure of his criticism from us on this pod and from also other aspects of the football press. He could have probably scored 6 or 7 more, and had he been in a little bit of better vein of form around the turn of the year, I think he probably could have hit 40 goals this season. That's how good he was. I would be exceptionally surprised if he found his way to China. I don't think it's going to be good for him at all, to be honest. I think he'd be much better off staying at Dortmund. I say that as a bit of a Dortmund fan, and I say it because we want him to stay in the league, and we've said it before, we want to see the very best players in the league week in, week out. I think with Bosch arriving at Dortmund, he's got all the ingredients there to be playing in a really, really good side next year. The Hoods arrived, Top Brack's arrived to shore up the backside. I just think they've got all the ingredients. We've spoken about it at great length for them to be really good. So Manu, you said it not long ago. If he doesn't move by the 1st of July, we don't think he'll move at all, because that doesn't leave Dortmund enough time to replace that quality and plug that 30-plus goal hole that will be left. I can't see him going anywhere. That's probably my heart rule in my head on that Bryce, but don't be surprised if he's at Dortmund next season, or this season coming to start.
Or will they end up at Bayern?
No.
Not at all.
No. I don't think so. I think the Sportbild had a bit of a stinker here and came up with a story that probably never was one, and rode Aubameyang to PSG and then had to massively backpedal. And the Chinese market is very difficult to follow, because they have middlemen and agents that pretend or think that they're representing club A, B, and C, and they come and they throw these big offers at players. I remember when I covered the Hulk to China, who was playing here in St. Peter. We used to play here in St. Petersburg for Zenit, right? I covered that story quite closely when he finally moved to China. And Alex Teixeira, of course, from Shakhtar Donetsk to China as well, a player that was closely linked to Liverpool. And there's so many Chinese agents that just come and they come to the training grounds and they talk to these players. Oh, our club, they offer you this amount of money and we'll pay you this much money and we'll give you this and we'll give you a house, we'll give you 5 Ferraris, etc. And then the clubs that they are part of often don't even know that these agents are representing them. So it's a bit of a lack of transparency from Chinese clubs, which makes it very difficult to keep a track on whether these transfer rumors are right or not. These players do get approached. We just don't know if the people that approach these players are actually the people from the club. Now, another thing is that the Chinese Super League has introduced a new rule. So for every million invested above 5.9 million in a new player, they have to invest that same amount of money again into Chinese youth development. So let's say they buy Aubameyang for 90 million euros. They would have to invest another 90 million euros into the Chinese youth system. So that transfer will all of a sudden cost 180. Then throw in the 100 million euros that they would have to spend on his 4-year salary. That's a 290 million euro transfer. That's a lot of money even for a Chinese club that seems to have a lot of money. So I think this is simply not happening. And that's why they said no. Modeste is a player that has been often approached by Chinese agents, and he's now phoned Schmatke and said, look, we need to talk. But this is, again, Schmatke seems to be very unworried about it, because he said that, well, we know how Chinese clubs operate and we don't actually have gotten an offer yet. And that makes it really difficult to follow this. And the players, of course, they get these numbers put in their head, right? I think Aubameyang is dreaming of earning that kind of money. The reality is the market is not the market isn't there for him because he is as complete as a striker he is. He doesn't fit into a lot of tactical setups. He doesn't fit in Chelsea. He doesn't fit at Real. He doesn't fit at Barcelona. So really, where is a market for him, right? The way Dortmund are set up makes him a 31 goal scorer, but would he be that kind of scorer somewhere else? I personally have my doubts.
Okay, so it looks like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is going to stay possibly at Borussia Dortmund. But yeah, I suppose the summer is and the transfer window is still a long way away from shutting. If Modestka wasn't to go to China, Manu, do you see him going anywhere else, or do you see that being the only suitor? Is anyone else actually interested at the moment?
I can only see him go to China, and I had an interesting conversation with a fellow journalist of mine, and I tended to agree with him. Köln get the kind of money that's offered right now, they should probably sell him, because how high is the chance that he'll get another season like the one he has now? And then they can go young. John Cordoba from Mainz is a player that I would like to see in Köln. But I guess we all saw the story today with Cristiano Ronaldo leaving. I don't know what's going to happen to him, so that could change the story of what we're talking about quite significantly.
I don't think he's going to end up at Cologne.
No, but he could end up. There is jail, but there could also be China and the United States. But he's apparently leaving Real, and all of a sudden Real will be looking into bringing in new strikers. I don't think they will be going for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but that could change the story quite significantly, couldn't it?
Yeah, they're saying, aren't they, that Cristiano Ronaldo has said that the situation is irreversible. I would say it's irreversible until they offer him a bigger contract, probably. But we'll talk about RB Leipzig. Chris, they've been pretty busy in the transfer window. They've been acting like German sides do and getting their business done early doors. Who exactly have they brought in, and how much do you rate the players?
Well, they've brought in Bruma from Galatasaray, who Manu wrote an article on, so read that, it's very good. And they've brought in a guy from Chassot, who I have absolutely no idea on, so you'll have to pass me on that, I'm afraid, Bryce. But what I do know is that Leipzig don't bring in dross. They're renowned for bringing in exceptional youth talent and exceptional talent for them then to be developed onwards. What I have been glad to see is so far no one has left Leipzig. They very much seem to be shoring up a squad that's capable of challenging for next season's Champions League, for next season's Pokal, and for the Bundesliga. So they, as we suspected, they are looking at building a squad that can challenge on all three fronts. They're not looking to sell their best 11 players. Getting a little bit long in the tooth now, having to say it time and time again, especially over here in England. RB Leipzig are not a selling club. They've got massive ambitions, grand ambitions, if you want to call it that. They specifically have targeted the Champions League as a trophy they want to win. They specifically said that they will win the Pokal and the Bundesliga. Well, you don't do that by selling your best players, as in Forsberg, Keita, or Werner. So I'm glad that all that talk now seems to be off the radar. I had a little bit of chat with a colleague of mine who said, oh, well, clubs never say our best players are for sale. Well, no, they don't, but they were exceptionally adamant. And the feeling when we were over in Leipzig, Manu, wasn't it, is that these guys are going nowhere. And I think we're seeing that now. We're just seeing that very good squad be added to, because Leipzig are looking to make that next step. They ran out of steam a little bit towards the back end of last season, and they don't want that to happen again. So bringing in more youth players and keeping hold of their established players is what they want to do. We've seen a couple leave who are on the fringes of the squad, and that's by the by. They're replacing them now with guys who they think can fit the Leipzig model for moving on and challenging for next year's Bundesliga and getting to the knockout stages of the Champions League. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you bring up a big important point here, that this we both played this game, haven't we? It's like, no, he's not for sale. No, this guy's not going there. No, Leipzig are not selling. no, Ralf Rangnick does mean no means no. It's kind of like, I like to compare it to Brexit almost. It's like Merkel's just saying no because she wants to negotiate. No, Germans don't say no and then want to negotiate. No in German means no. And that's what Ralf Rangnick is saying to the likes of Liverpool, the likes of AC Milan, who really wanted to sign Forsberg. No, we're not selling. That's not the club we are. We are a club that's building. We have a strategy, and players that are coming to him and saying that, well, I have this club interested in me. And he just told Forsberg, he's like, well, that's great. This club is interested in you, but you also signed a contract until 2022. So, well, good luck with that. And then players think, I guess, a lot of times is that they can just break contracts, but no, they can't. And that's not how it works. It's not the reality of life. So I think Leipzig are very much looking to build, and they brought in 2 young guys that are supposed to help them with that. And I'm pretty sure they're not done yet, and they're definitely going to add. And I think that's very much the feeling that you get when you are in Leipzig.
But then we talk about Leipzig maybe failing to get Gnabry and Phillips. Do you feel, Chris, that it's still going to be a few years and kind of establishing themselves before the likes of RB Leipzig could compete with the likes of Bayern, Dortmund, and maybe the rest of Europe's elite, for young players and for big signings?
Yeah, we've seen them compete last season, haven't we, with their counterparts around them in the league. They certainly competed at Dortmund against Dortmund for the 2 games that I saw them play there. And we were all at Leipzig for the game against Bayern, which I still can't believe they lost that game even now. But it's, can they make this step with extra competitions around them? So you would argue that the next few seasons they're going to look heavily at trying to either win in the league or win in the cup or getting as far as they can in the Champions League. They have all the ingredients to be able to do that, and you cannot argue with their recruitment, and you can't argue in the direction they're travelling. I think they will get there. Next season's going to be a big season for them because they've got extra challenges. So if they are there or thereabouts come May, if they're second or third and they've done particularly well in the Champions League as in knockout stages, and they've got considerably far in the cup, either they're looking towards the final or they got through to the semi-final, I think that can be a successful season. They've flown through the tier systems of the German league, promotion after promotion. They're at the very top now. They've got to establish themselves as a top 3 side, really. I can't see them going out and winning the league next year because I think the teams around them are strengthening at the same time they are. And I think everybody will be a little wiser to the way that Leipzig play and will be not as surprised by their speed of attack, which may work against them. I don't think that will be a problem for them in Europe. I think they'll take Europe by storm because people, although they'll watch videos and replays and they will tactically analyse the way they play, they won't have seen it for themselves firsthand. I think they'll take a lot of teams by surprise in Europe. I would say that for the next couple of seasons they just have to cement themselves. And okay, so they haven't got Gnabry or they haven't got Phillips. They've gone to their main rivals as in Bayern and Dortmund. But they're still able to pick up talents and develop them. And if they can keep everybody again this time next year, I think they'll have a good chance of pushing on. But I wouldn't expect them to be as strong. That's probably the wrong word. I wouldn't expect them to be as powerful as they were last season. And that's purely because I think everybody is now a little bit more aware of RB Leipzig and the danger that they face.
Yeah, well, here's something that they can hold on to the young players that they've developed over the last season or two. I mean, they've been an absolute delight to watch. Yes, when we were over in Leipzig, they lost 5-4, but I must say that when they were playing to their full in that game, they were breathtaking. They were fantastic, and I think they're going to be a very strong addition to the Champions League this year. I think that'll establish them a little bit more, and they'll be able to pick up other players that maybe before they would have struggled to convince players to sign for. And yeah, I think everyone's in for a treat across Europe. I think there'll be a lot of people's second sides in the Champions League. So Yeah, it's going to be exciting times for the people of Leipzig and the club. We're going to talk about Frankfurt a little bit now with Manu. They've brought in a Mexican star, and obviously they've got Marco Fabian there, but they've brought in another Mexican player. And I mean, what can you tell us about Carlos Salcido? I mean, we spoke about him a little bit on the Golatza podcast, our Mexican podcast on the Football Grads network. But Manu, what can you tell people about him?
Yeah, I did an article on him on Fußballstadt.com. It's more in depth there than you probably have time to go into. But I really like the signing. And the reason I like the signing is because Mexicans are always a good investment, especially if they can play football like this kid can. Because the US market, right? The Bundesliga competes with the Premier League of the US market, and of course with Liga MX, the strongest league in the US market. And that means bringing in a player like that, especially a player with a Chivas background, will bring in a lot of interest for Eintracht Frankfurt. And Frankfurt are going to the United States to play a few friendlies there over the summer. So this will be an intelligent move by them. But this kid can also play. He's known as El Titan in Mexico. He's going to replace Vallejo, of course, and Vallejo back to Real Madrid, where he is going to replace Pepe. So, speaks highly for Eintracht Frankfurt that they were able to take a kid like Vallejo, give him a good run in the Bundesliga, and he's now going to step in the very highest level next season. And Freddy Bobic has been having very good at identifying players like that. The sporting director, Freddy Bobic, bringing in players like Vallejo last year, of course, Mascarell, who I really like. He didn't sign Marco Fabian, that was done later on, but they have been very good in developing players, bringing them to the next level. And Salcedo has this nice mix of cheekiness, a little bit of dirty play that you see so often in the CONCACAF, but very good technical abilities, and I think he's an excellent signing for them.
Yeah, he had been on loan from Chivas to Fiorentina in Serie A. We mentioned on the Golatza pods, amongst talking about crystal meth and cartel and other things, we mentioned that probably for Mexican players, it's probably a good transition, isn't it, going to the likes of the Bundesliga or maybe the Dutch league as well, which are flowing, attacking football generally. And that this could be a very good move for not just for Frankfurt but also for the player as well. And it always helps, when a teammate, it's also from your native country, and it can help with that transition, can it? We're going to finish off with one last thing. I think, I seen there was Oliver Kahn's birthday this week. He turned a massive 48. I just thought it would be nice to go around to each of you fellas. I know, Manu, you're an 1860 fan rather than a Bayern fan. Chris, you're more a Dortmund fan and Liverpool fan than you are a Bayern fan. But, I mean, everyone has a memory that comes to mind when they say Oliver Kahn. And, Manu, what memory, whether it's good or bad, comes to your mind about this German legend, I suppose you would say? He's one of the greatest keepers of all time, possibly, right?
Interesting you say that. I'm not a Bayern fan, but I played keeper, and Oliver Kahn, and this is secretly, I'm going to admit it now, he was actually my favorite player growing up. And the reason for that is because the will to win every game. And I think I've never seen that match by any keeper around this planet. He has the absolute dedication and the will to win at all costs, and he did it more often than not. I think up to this day, when Germany reached the 2002 final in Brazil, in Japan and Korea against Brazil, I think that was the single biggest achievement by any player at a tournament. He shouldered the team and he carried the team to the final. And then, of course, the irony had it that he had to play the final with a broken hand, and let slip through that shot by Ronaldo that lost the tournament. But he was an absolute titan. And I think when you look at his dedication and his willpower and the way he saved it, we did a compilation on Bundesliga.com of some of his saves, and some of it's just absolutely remarkable. And I think that is unmatched. And I mean literally unmatched by any keeper I've ever seen.
And Chris, what memories come to mind for you, whether it's a good one or a bad one?
2001 UEFA Champions League final where he was man of the match. Can still remember watching it now. I thought he was incredible. I think he's a fantastic keeper. Certainly one of the best. And sometimes you often forget about him, and then all of a sudden someone goes Oliver Kahn, and you go, oh my God, yes, what a good keeper he was. It's been a while since we've seen him play, but in his day, he was unstoppable, and I would not have liked to have been any defender in front of him, because woe betide if you messed up. You got a full broadcast, didn't you? So you also mention that it's Jurgen Klopp's birthday today as well. He's 50.
There we go. Maybe next week we'll talk about our fondest Jurgen Klopp memories. But I must say, Oliver Kahn, certainly if you are a little bit younger, you don't know Oliver Kahn that well, go and check out that Bundesliga.com video. I'm sure it's on the website somewhere, but I know it's definitely on their Twitter page.
And Facebook.
And Facebook, sorry.
It's on Facebook, yeah.
And Facebook.
I put it there, so that's why I know.
Doing your job, eh? Yeah. But yeah, some outrageous saves on there. So such a player, and yeah, a real animal. I mean, I'm pretty sure I remember a clip. You guys might be able to remind me where he basically bites the ball, doesn't he, when he catches it? I mean, he was just worked up. He was fired up all the time. And we talk about goalkeepers being made captain, and a lot of people say that it's a bad choice because they can't influence the players on the pitch, further up the field. But I don't think that was the case for Oliver Kahn. I think he made sure everyone knew that he was there and what they were doing. But I think we'll end it there. Obviously, Manu, you're at the Confederations Cup. Is there anything you'd like to plug going into this week, or where can people find you on the likes of Twitter?
Yeah, just make sure to follow Football Grad Live. It's all on there. Everything that we do. Right, Chris? It's going to be all there.
Yeah, it's everything there. People should know where to find me on Twitter now. If they don't, take it as a little quiz.
Do your research, eh? I've been your host, Bryce Dunn. You can find me on Twitter at Bryce Dunn 11. I suppose the only thing I've got to plug really at the moment is the Golats Liga MX, or Mexican football podcast that me and Manu have been doing. Check out this week's all about a drug and cartel involvement with the clubs, amongst other transfers like possible Fernando Torres ending up there. So, how about checking that one out? But yes, until next week, where I'm sure we'll have plenty more transfer talk, I'm going to say auf Wiedersehen.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen, dich abzuholen.
One gift that never gets returned? Trick question. It's 3 gifts: beer, wine, and spirits. And with Drizzly, you can send the gift of drinks right to your loved one's doors. Drizzly lets you compare prices from local liquor stores on a huge selection of beer, wine, and holiday spirits, then get them delivered right to that lucky someone's door in under 60 minutes. And right now, Drizzly is giving customers $5 off their first order. Just enter promo code JINGLE at checkout. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.